Nice open-ended question. What are you doing in town?
I think we're here to tell our side of the story, like always. We're here to push for our street vacation. It's been sitting, waiting for transmission to the city council for 7 or 8 months now, and I think we did a really good job of listening to the council's concerns last time it got voted down. As you know, we changed the public financing component of it, and we added a lot of transportation and logistics and other things that the council seemed concerned about. And so we're here to just remind people that we think we have the best arena plan, and we would like to see some progress on getting to a vote.
I know that originally, several months ago, the council had indicated they were hoping to get to a street vacation decision in July, August. Have you heard anything whatsoever from the city as far as when they may take that up?
I think we've heard quite a few things from the city, but I don't think there's any clarity on exactly when that's going to happen. And I think with the change in the mayor and an impending new mayor coming in November 28th, I think that there's, that timing is not certain for sure.
Have you had any conversations with two candidates for mayor about your proposal and how it stacks up?
I haven't directly, but Wally Walker from our group has spent quite a bit of time with both of them, and just not only communicated why we think SoDo is a better location for an arena, but also just just selling the merits of our group and what it is we're really trying to accomplish here. And I think sometimes people forget that. Our mission here, again, is not to be the majority NBA owners per se. Our mission is to get an NBA team back here, and we feel pretty strongly that having an arena in SoDo gives us the best chance to do that. And I think one of the things that's not well understood is that we're very open to the city determining whatever is in the best interests of the Seattle Center and KeyArena. And we don't think that these two are mutually exclusive. If the city decides to move forward with the OVG plan, that's their prerogative. It's their asset. Hopefully they take to consideration all the concerns of the various constituents around there in the traffic and parking. But at the end of the day, if they decide to do that, it's their asset. They have the right to do that. But we don't think that should exclude us from also being able to pursue an NBA arena in SoDo.
You think there can be two arenas in this city?
I think if you looked at most markets the size of Seattle, there is definitely two, and sometimes even more arenas.
So everybody involved knows that there was a conversation between you and Ed Murray last year, and Ed Murray broached the idea of even looking into KeyArena and giving it one last go. Are you surprised now when you look back at that conversation that it's gone this far, that there's an actual tentative MOU to do something on KeyArena?
I would just say at this point in the process, Chris, I'm not surprised by anything. I think the ex-mayor decided that he wanted it to be there and ran a fairly rushed process in which there was not a lot of consideration given to competing alternative uses for Key. And of it not being an NBA or NHL arena, the RFP did not even contemplate those. This thing has really been on a fast track from the old mayor and his staff. And that's okay. Again, it's the city's assets as the way they chose to run the process. And it's not our place to tell city council or mayors how and what's best for Seattle, particularly when it's their asset. But I do think we have the right and the obligation to Sonics fans to argue that our solution is still the best one for the NBA, and that what harm can come to Seattle from approving our plans. Occidental's already being vacated to the south of us with the new Lander Street overpass. Our arena is completely privately financed, and it's not going to be built unless we have a team. Obviously, if we were able to attract a team, by definition, that would imply that either it was unattractive of the candidate of the NBA ownership group to go to a revamped KeyArena, or there was actually some issue with the development. I just don't think can't see how having more options to bring the NBA back to Seattle is not better.
Do you think Ed Murray was ever behind your plan?
I'll leave that for others to speculate. It sure doesn't feel like it, I would say, but it's not. I can't really speak to exactly what the inclinations of individuals are unless they've told me as much.
Do you think that the financial model could work, though, for two arenas in the NBA if, say, OVG has an NHL and music venue at Seattle Center? And
I think it actually would work better. I mean, when you consider the purchase prices for NBA teams, and if you looked at Houston as the most recent comp, there's a lot of single-tenant buildings. Warriors' new arena in San Francisco being a prime case in point, right? They haven't had any real trouble financing that arena, and they get to keep 100% of the income stream. So, if anything, that's been the trend. A venue with an NHL partner and a music partner who's a third-party operator and an NBA partner is inherent to lead to some conflicts of how to divvy up the pie on things like naming rights, suite revenue, parking, suites.
so you think you could run an arena with an NBA team as an anchor tenant, and then other
In a market
dates?
like Seattle, absolutely.
So, have you had a chance to look at the MOU from the Oakview Group? What do you think of the MOU?
I think that, the first thing I would say is it obviously does include a fair amount of public financing. It includes redirected parking revenues. It redirected taxes, not just admissions tax, but some other taxes as well. Some sponsorship revenue that's redirected from other parts of the Seattle Center. But our primary issues are not really with that per se. I think you understand. Our goal is to bring an NBA team back, and we're more concerned about the duration of time it's going to take for this building to be built. Our belief that you will end up in both a compromised building in terms of the actual building itself, in terms of layout of seats, suites, parking, and then of course just the transportation and logistics. I mean, I think it's still amusing. I think if you ask anybody in Seattle, try to get to KeyArena for most parts of the Puget Sound area at 6:30 p.m. on a weeknight, I would just leave it to others to chime in on what that process is like. And we could talk about things like light rail coming in, I think it's 2032, or the future of autonomous driving vehicles, but with just the current growth in Amazon and other employers here, that I think this issue is likely to get more difficult rather than less difficult in the next 5 to 10 years.
So when Tim Lewicki says to stop chasing ghosts and directs that at your group, do you have a reaction?
I just don't respond to negativity like that. It's just not the way I'm built. I compliment Tim for being able to get their project to where it's gotten, and for him being able to seemingly line up a NHL partner in Bonnerman. I don't have anything bad to say about their efforts. I think we have a better solution, and one thing is for sure, and I can promise everybody who's listening to this, is that we own all of our land in SoDo. We are not going to sell our land or do anything different until there is an NBA team here. Our job and our goal is to bring an NBA team back to Seattle. No one can make us sell our land, and no one can make us do anything different, and we're going to sit here as patient and as long as it takes in order to get an NBA franchise back to Seattle.
The idea of subdividing KeyArena into different venues, have you had any response from the city on that?
There was a transition at the city right after we laid that out there. I mean, this is something I think you probably remember, Chris, in the original MOU, we dedicated around $7.5 million to explore alternatives for Key. We really wanted to start the dialogue, and the mayor was not receptive to that. And he wasn't receptive to that in the RFP process. If you remember, it was only for an NBA and NHL ready arena. So it wouldn't have been like if we would have submitted it a month and a half earlier, 2 months earlier, it would have been better or more well received. We think that I mean, I think when you step back and you look at it from a big picture, right? Having a 17 to 21,000 person arena that can host live sports and large concerts, having a 7,000 person arena for mid-sized concerts, and a 3,000 person amphitheater that flows out into the Seattle Center for all of its various events. That seems like a better solution than one smaller, slightly compromised arena or two large arenas, in the Seattle market. That's our point of view, but I think it's just always interesting when I talk to my friends or other sports fans who aren't from Seattle, and I tell them, hey, I'm trying to build a arena completely privately in an area that's zoned for an arena, and they're almost like flabbergasted that like we've run into so much so many impediments.
So the last thing I'll ask you is, Sonics fans in particular, people on chat boards, people on sports talk radio, they say the way this is going with the city and the way they have a temporary MOU, that this just means SoDo is dead. The word SoDo is dead. When you hear that, how do you respond?
People just say stuff, Chris. I mean, we are not going to sell our land. We are going to sit here. We own a contiguous parcel that has a EIS project approved, and all of the approvals in place from the design commission and building and planning, and SDOT has validated our plan, and we've been back and forth for like 5 years on solving every possible problem. So nothing dies. I mean, and again, this isn't a communist country. No one can force us to sell our land, and so we will sit here patiently. And if there's another time to argue our case, we'll argue it then. If it's later this year, early next year. But I think the commitment I would give to everyone in Seattle, and particularly all NBA fans, is we're going to sit here and be as patient as it takes. We've been here for 6 years. We've kept after it, and you're not going to see anything different out of us, until there's an actual team getting off a plane here, or a new expansion franchise granted, and me and Wally and Pete and Eric and Russell are sitting courtside watching an NBA tip-off here.